right, class, for you today, I have a very special guest. We have Mrs. Courtney. She is Mrs. Baker's mother. I used to rent a house from Mrs. Courtney as well. Mrs. Courtney is going to tell you about what we were learning about in social studies yesterday, and she's going to give you a first-hand perspective on what happened. So before we begin, let's give her a round of applause for coming on down. All right, she will tell you. She gave a very great presentation last year. I'm looking forward to hearing it again this year. After she's done, she'll have some time for questions. So we're going to be respectful. We're going to listen closely, and we're going to raise our hand if we have something to say. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Take it away.
Okay. In 1958, which was 56 years ago, I was going to be a senior in high school. And back then, we started school the day after Labor Day. I know they do that differently now, but we always started the day after Labor Day. On September 12th, 1958, they made an announcement over the loudspeaker and told us to come to the auditorium. We were a very overcrowded school, so when we all got in the auditorium, it was really full. And the principal stood up and all he said to us was, go to your lockers, clean out your lockers, get all of your belongings, and take them home with you. This school is closed until further notice. The reason that it was closing was because the Reverend Martin Luther King had come to Front Royal, and I guess he decided that it would be a good target area to promote integration where Black students and white students went to school together. When I was a senior, I didn't know that Black students had to go somewhere all the way down and like 30 miles away. I didn't know that. When you're a kid in school, you don't know stuff like that. You don't think about that. All I was thinking about was it was my senior year. I was going to have football games. We had a football game that night. I was going to have a yearbook and a prom and everything that people have when they have a senior year. But he said, pack everything up and go home. And when we looked out the windows, you could see state policemen all around the school. There were photographers taking pictures because as we came out the building, they were swarming us, wanting us to answer questions. We didn't know anything. We were just high school kids. So we went home. Everybody went home, and some waited a while. We waited a week. Nothing happened. And there were a number of us who had been already accepted at colleges around different areas. So we knew that if we didn't do something, we weren't going to be able to go to college in the fall because we needed to get back in school. So our parents started looking around, trying to find places where we could go. There were a number of children in my class who went to Clark County. Clark County said, we'll take a bunch of students. So they drove back and forth every day and they went to Clark County. There were a number who went to live with grandparents. One went all the way to Alabama. There was one that went all the way to New England. And they lived with aunts and uncles. They lived everywhere, anywhere they could go where they could go to school. There was a school in Lawrenceville, Virginia, who called and said they sympathized with us and they would take 10 students. So 10 of us, my friends and I, we decided that we would go there. Lawrenceville is 208 miles from Front Royal. So my senior year, I left about a week after the 12th. Lawrenceville is almost to the North Carolina line because I went into North Carolina a bunch. And I had never been anywhere until I went there. But anyway, we went down there. We went to my senior class down there was a class of 85 students. And my class up here was like 140 some. So 10 of us went down there. 8 of them stayed in boarding house. I stayed in a private home, and my friend and I stayed in a private home with a man and a woman and 2 little girls. but my friend got sick and she had to come back home, so I stayed there. Lawrenceville was a very nice place. They were nice people, but it was a totally different atmosphere than Front Royal. In Front Royal, I had a girl across the street from me who was from the Philippines, and we played together. I had a really good friend who was black, and we played together. But in Lawrenceville, nobody played together. You didn't fraternize. You didn't mingle with each other. The white stayed here, the black stayed here, and you didn't mingle. That's just the way that area was. It was a good high school, and it was a nice place, but I wasn't home with my mama and my daddy and my brother. I had to leave them. My brother was just in 8th grade, and because of me leaving so early like that, my brother and I kind of lost touch with each other, and I didn't get to have the closeness that I would have had with my brother if I could have stayed. My mom and dad had to come up with money to pay for my room and my board down there, and it was a big hardship for them. There were a number of people in my class when this happened. They quit school altogether. They never graduated. There were like 12 or 13 who just quit. They didn't go anywhere. They didn't do anything. There were a number who gave up and joined the military. And then there were a bunch of us who, like I said, went off. And then they formed what they called the Warren County Educational Foundation. And then those children went to school in churches, in private homes. They went anywhere that they could go where they would have a classroom. And they went there. I did not come back because my parents determined that it was better for me to stay where I was because they were worried that you wouldn't get as good an education at the educational foundation. And they didn't have a lot of the subjects. They didn't teach a lot of the things that I was taking, so I couldn't get them through the educational foundation. So I stayed where I was, and I graduated from Brunswick County High School. I only got to come home Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter my senior year. That's the only time I saw my parents, the only time I got to come home. The rest of the time I was down there in a world that was totally foreign to me because, like I said, I was 16 miles from the North Carolina state line. Now, I'm not saying I didn't have a good time down there. Those people, for one thing, it snowed one time when I was down there. They had never seen snow, and they didn't know what to do. So we got tires, and we went sledding on, they have big hills in Lawrenceville, and we did that, but they had never seen that. But then I had never seen the way life was in that particular environment. And we had a good time. It's not that we didn't have a good time, but we had one girl who had a scholarship to the Peabody Institute of Music. And of course, when they shut your school down, you lose that. There were guys who would have gotten scholarships to play football because we had a championship football team. They didn't get those scholarships, so therefore they didn't go to college. And now some people went anyway, but there were a lot of negative things that happened, but there were a lot of positive things that happened because my parents said when I went, I was a very shy, very withdrawn girl. You want this shut?
Surely.
That's okay. I got it. But when I came back, I had all kinds of confidence. So I learned to make it on my own because I didn't have anybody. My mom and dad were 208 miles away, and it was hard for my parents. My granddaughter graduated from Warren County High School. This was where I went. This is now what you call your middle school, but this was my high school. And my granddaughter said to me when she was researching in the library at the high school, she says, Mama, there's nothing about your class. Nothing about your class in our library. No yearbook, no nothing. Well, we didn't have any of those things. And 50 years later, the governor of the state of Virginia, who is this, it was a different governor, but originally the original governor sent an order to the principal and said, you must close this high school. It was the governor's order, and it was called massive resistance. And the principal had no choice. He didn't want to shut the high school down, but he had no choice.
Who was the governor at that time? Was it Harry F. Byrd?
No, it says in here, but I don't remember. I remember the principal and I remember the superintendent, but I don't remember the
Because we had learned about Harry F. Byrd was leading massive resistance a lot.
Yeah, probably. Because this was the first school. Then there was a second one in Virginia. And we all said there were 22 black students who wanted to attend our high school. That's all there were, 22. But they didn't ask us. If they had asked us, do you want to let them come to your high school? We would have said yes. But nobody asked us. Nobody asked the principal. It was the governor. It was an order from the governor that said we had to shut the school down. So it was, it was a law. We had to abide by it. But anyway, 50 years later, then the governor then, which was 6 years ago, said that an injustice was done not just to the black children, but to the kids who suffered because they didn't get to graduate from high school. And we had no class trip. We had no prom. We had no anything. We played the first football game and we won because we were a championship football team. But then that was it. We didn't play anymore. So they put together a book, and this book is all people in my class wrote in this book how they felt, what happened to them, what it did. Some people, it really devastated them. Others did okay. I did okay, and it's different. My life is different than it probably would have been, but I did okay. Some people, like I said, we had 12 people who quit school. They never even graduated from high school because of this, which is a bad thing. You want to make sure that you go all the way and graduate from high school. So anyway, and this is your middle school now, and they've added on to it. It's bigger than it was. But we had a graduation ceremony, and they had us walk across the stage, and they gave us a diploma that reads Warren County High School, 1959. Because that would have been the year that I would have graduated, because we were called the lost class of 59, because we never got to finish. We just kind of faded away. So anyway, that's it. Do you have any questions? Okay, let's start that way in the black.
Did you feel bad for the people that were not treated right?
Yes, I did, but I didn't even know about it. When I was growing up, I didn't know that those children had to take a bus and go to Manassas to school. Nobody ever told me, and I was too involved in my life, so I didn't find out. Yes.
Did you
Sophie left.
how many black kids did you play with?
How many? I had
How many friends?
I had one black friend that it was a guy, and he lived on the street down from me. I played at his house, he played at my house. But there weren't that many that lived around me, but he was my friend. And an interesting side note is when we had all of this done, when this happened, I saw him on the street after all this happened. And I stopped and was going to talk to him, but he walked by me and he wouldn't talk to me. So, he obviously was angry, and, there was nothing I could do about that.
Did you ever get in trouble because of being this African?
I was not a kid who got in trouble, ever. Not here or in Lawrenceville.
have to repeat the whole high school over?
No,
Because they
no.
should have done it?
No, my grades transferred down there and I graduated, I was number 7 in the class down there out of 85. So I was a good student. Yes.
Do you want to talk on? I remember when you told me about you were number 7, which bumped some people up.
Oh yeah, we the people down there, the kids that were in the class, they were not necessarily that happy to see us because the 10 of us that went down there were all good students that had been accepted at college. And because we made really good grades, we bumped, some came back, but we bumped them out of the top 10. You know how when you graduate from school and you're valedictorian and salutatorian and then well, me being number 7 meant that somebody from that school didn't get to be number 7 and they weren't very happy about it. We didn't think, the kids didn't think that that was fair. We thought that they shouldn't have done that, but that's what the school system did and we had no choice. But I did graduate number 7, yes.
How old were you back then?
17. I was 17 when they closed my school.
Have you seen people being 17?
Have I seen it? Yes. I saw it then. I didn't know about it before, but I saw it then because it was all over the newspapers. There were reporters everywhere, and we learned about all this that we were ignorant of because we were students and we were concentrating on ourselves. We weren't thinking about other kids. We should have been, but we weren't. Yes.
What was it like back then?
What was it like? You mean all around? What was it like? We didn't have anything that you have now. Because I went over this with my grandsons one time, and I said I had no TV. We did not have computers, of course. There were no adding machines or anything like that. We had toasters that you had to put the bread up like that. They didn't pop up. There were no microwaves. There was practically nothing. My grandparents lived in a place that didn't even have indoor plumbing. So it was very rustic back then. The school was very nice. Our school was nice.
Like, what was it like? Like, what was your feelings back then?
My feelings, I was sad because I didn't ever get to see my brother. I missed seeing my brother because he had his whole high school and I missed everything. I would have missed it when I went away to college, but I missed it a year early. And I missed my mom and daddy. I wanted to be with my parents, but I had to do what I had to do, and that's what they wanted me to do. So it was a sad, sad time. I cried when they left. They drove me down to Lawrenceville and put me in the room and everything else. And then the next day I had to go to school on my own because my parents had to go back home. And I cried because I wasn't going to see them until the first time I saw them was Thanksgiving. Yes.
Did you have to walk to school?
Yes. It was, Lawrenceville is a very small town, had one little street that was the main street. And the people that I lived with, the Lucys, they lived not that far from there. So I walked to school. I didn't take a bus.
Were you ever treated wrongly?
There? No, they treated us really well. They were nice people. I don't know how to say this. I'm not a racist person, but the black people that lived there were different than the black people that lived here in Front Royal. They were not nice. They were in trouble all the time, and maybe that's why they helped us. I don't know. But I was not allowed to associate with them. The people that I lived with, the Lucys, told me that I had to maintain my distance. I had to stay away from them. So I didn't get to know them. Yes.
How did you feel about segregation?
How did I feel about it? When I found out, when I learned that the 22 kids in Warren County had to ride a bus all the way to Manassas every day to go to school, or else they lived down there, I was really sad. And I wish that the governor would have given us the chance to vote or something, and we would have said, yes, let them come. But I didn't know that they rode a bus and went down there. Because when you're a kid, you don't pay attention to everything that's going on around you. That's a good thing you might want to think about, because you need to pay attention to your surroundings and know what's happening and what's going on. I didn't. I was totally ignorant of that, and it was my fault. Back there in the back.
Who was your principal?
Who was Mr. Duff? His last name was Duff, and the superintendent was QD Gastrey.
Does the name for the governor, I looked it up, does Thomas Stanley, does that sound familiar?
Yes,
Okay.
that sounds familiar. I know that they chose this area, and then there was another place in Virginia after us, but we were the first one.
Was Norfolk after you?
I think so, yeah.
How old were you when segregation started?
When segregation started,
Yeah.
I would assume that it had been going on my whole entire time I was growing up. I just didn't know it. I was oblivious to that. I didn't know it. I had a normal, happy childhood, and I didn't know that they were being discriminated against.
Remember, Farron, segregation officially started in 1865, and she was born after 1865. Her whole life, she didn't realize it until she was.
No, I didn't know, because it's wrong. I have a lot of friends who are Black, and I had coworkers, and I just didn't know. I know now, but I didn't know then. Yes.
Did you accept the change?
Did I accept the change? Yes, I did. Yes, I would have liked if they would have made the change before they shut my school down, but yes, I accepted it.
How old were you when it ended?
When what?
When it ended?
When it ended?
Yeah.
Well, they did it the next, they were integrating in 58, 59. I'm not sure when they had it completely done.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, you look that up for me, because I don't know, because they had incidents all over the South, in Alabama, everywhere.
Teachers, please pardon the interruption. We are having a delay with the pictures, so please wait for somebody to come to your room to tell you the lineup. Thank you.
Do you know did you go to college?
Yes,
What
I did.
college did you go to?
Mary Washington College in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Just a minute.
Did you ever see your brother again after all that stopped?
Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter. And then my brother went to, they made a new high school called John S. Mosby Academy, and that's where my brother went, and he graduated from there.
They said the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which we haven't talked about in class yet, is when the official end of
Official end of it.
segregation was.
Yeah.
So how old would you have been in there to answer? I think it
Let's see, I was born in 41.
was 23 then.
Yeah. Was I sad? Yes, I was very sad. I was looking forward to we were going to take a class trip to New York. We had a championship football team. We had won 2 years straight, and we were scheduled to win again. We were going to have a prom. We were going to have all the fun things. A yearbook. We didn't have any of that. We had nothing. They shut it down, and we were done. Yes.
Did discrimination ever end in your neighborhood?
Well, in my neighborhood, there wasn't any. But, that doesn't mean that there wasn't in the rest of Front Royal. I do remember when I did know when I was young, we had a park theater. You know where that is? Okay. In the park theater, the black people had to be up in the balcony and the white people had to be downstairs. I went upstairs with my friend to the balcony one time and they made me leave. They wouldn't let me be up there. So, you know, it was a discrimination thing both ways, kind of, because they wouldn't let me go there. Even though my friend was there, I wasn't allowed to be there.
Was your friend, when you went up there, did your friend like say no, or did he say you would stay?
Oh, it wasn't up to him, honey. It was the people from the theater that made me leave. It wasn't his choice. If it had been our choice, we would have stayed, but they wouldn't let us do that. That wasn't allowed.
Were you in elementary school or were you not able to?
Was I in elementary school? Oh, yes. I went to E. Wilson Morrison.
That's where I went.
That was my elementary school. And then in 7th grade, they did redistricting or something, and I ended up in A.S. Road School that's out on the road to Strasburg. I went there, and then after that, I was in this high school, 8th through 11th. I didn't graduate from it, but I went 8th through 11th. Yes.
What about junior high?
Back then, it was, you had elementary, you had middle, you had high school, that's it.
They didn't have as many students back then as we do now, so they didn't need as many schools.
Was there any African Americans in the elementary school?
No. See, they were being bused to Manassas, and I didn't know it. I was a kid like you are, and I didn't know. I didn't know that they had to get on a bus and drive far away just because somebody had decided they weren't allowed to come. Didn't know any of that. I'm sure adults knew it, but kids didn't. We just didn't know. Yes,
Did your parents ever know about it?
I'm sure they did. They would have had to. My parents were knowledgeable people, so they would have had to have known about it. Any more questions? Okay.
What do we say to Mrs. Courtney?
Thank you, Mrs. Courtney.
By the way, they did put, this book is in Warren County High School library now. So we do have a presence in the school, even though we don't have a yearbook or anything. They published this book, they gave them to us, and they put it in the high school because my granddaughter said, "It's there, Mama, I saw it." So we do know.
Did you talk on how you have the 2 diplomas?
Oh, yeah, I have a diploma from Brunswick. It was called Brunswick County High School from Lawrenceville, Virginia. I have a diploma from there. And then I did tell them that we had the graduation. And I have a diploma that reads Warren County High School, class of 1959. And it's signed by the existing governor at the time because it was done 50 years later. One of my classmates was pushed across to pick up her diploma in a wheelchair because she couldn't walk anymore. And some classmates had already died before they ever got the diploma. So, but we have them, and I have it. Yes.
Why couldn't she walk anymore?
Because she has a disease called Alzheimer's, and she was not able to walk, but her children wanted her to be able to get her diploma. So they pushed her across and she got her diploma.
You said you could only join your friend?
Yes, she was. A lot of my friends are gone now because I'm going to be 74 next week. So I'm an old lady. Yes.
Did you go to any of the funerals?
No, because I live in Pennsylvania. I live up in toward the capital of Pennsylvania. I live up in that area, and most of them don't live in Front Royal anymore. They all live other places too, because that was the other thing that happened when this class dispersed like we did, we went all over the place. Well, normally, when you have a graduating class, maybe a certain percentage of them stay in the town and they work there and whatever, but all of these, we all left because we had to go somewhere else. So very few people live here that were in that class. We all went somewhere else. What did I look like?
What did your lockers?
Little skinny things like this, tall.
They're probably the same lockers that are still in the building.
Probably. I think when we went to get the diplomas, we walked down, they let us tour the whole school, and I walked down the halls in those little skinny lockers. They're tall and thin, and you gotta really struggle to get a big coat in there.
Have you seen your sister's locker?
Yeah.
It's
I've seen
Probably the
hers.
same,
I've saw hers. It's always one.
because it's the middle school now, so, yes.
My dad actually goes to middle school.
Does he?
Used to be a high school.
Yeah, used to be the high school, yeah.
What locker number did you have?
Oh my God. I do not remember. That was 56 years ago. I don't remember, I'm sorry.
she had one of them.
Do you like the change better? Like not back then, but like you didn't like back then, but you like. Never mind.
She's asking, do you think integration was a good idea?
Yes, yes, I do. Because it's wrong to discriminate against people for the color of their skin, or it's just wrong. I think it's a good thing. It's in some parts of the Deep South, there are still people who are very, very prejudiced, and they are wrong. I think that's wrong, but that's the way it is, and they have to deal with that. Yes.
In the middle school, that used to be a high school, was there like a bunch of stairs going up?
Yes. Yes. Lots of stairs.
Could you just reiterate the point of why you chose to find a new school rather than just give up on school?
My parents checked about different places, and I had been accepted at Mary Washington, and they wanted me to go to college, and they were worried, two respects, that if they opened up a school in the area, that I wouldn't be able to take the subjects that I needed to go to college. And then the other one was that if I didn't start getting my grades, they were going to withdraw the acceptance to Mary Washington. I had to get into school and start earning credits so that I could go to Mary Washington. That's why my parents took these people up on that.
What were the clothes like back then?
Clothes like we wore really long skirts, and they were what do you call them? Hoop skirts. They were big, and you always wore a scarf around your neck. But in my school, there were no pants. Girls were not allowed to wear slacks. Girls were not allowed to wear slacks. You had to wear dresses or skirts, and you could never wear slacks. That was against the rules. Did I wear a bonnet? No, I didn't wear a bonnet. No. In my part of the country where I live, there's a lot of people who wear bonnets, but they are Amish people and Mennonite people.
What are slacks?
The jeans, whatever. We were not allowed to wear, girls were not allowed to wear slacks, pants, whatever. You had to wear a dress or a skirt. It was against the rules. Yes.
What happened if you did wear
You got called to the principal's office. Oh dear, and then you usually got sent home. And my parents always told me, if you get sent home for something that you did that was wrong, whatever trouble you get in at school is going to be nothing compared to the trouble you get in at home. Yes.
What does the boys wear in the school?
The boys wore pants and shirts.
They're not fair.
No, it wasn't fair, but back then, there was also a lot of discrimination against women, or against girls and women. Yes.
Didn't women not be able to go back then?
Oh, no, women were voting when I was, that happened a long time before me. Yes,
Did you guys have gym?
yes, we did have a gym.
What did the girls wear?
They had special gym suits that you had to wear. They were like, it was like an all one-piece gym suit that had shorts, it was shorts, and you had to wear that, and you were not allowed to wear anything else.
What did the boys do?
The boys wore shorts and a shirt. Yes,
Was there a football field?
Yes. Yes, there was. Well, no, I'm sorry. There was a small football field, but you know where Crosby Stadium is? That used to be the football field for the high school. They didn't play baseball there. That was where they played football. That was the football field. We always went there for our football games. Okay?
Wait, in football, like, were there girls playing football?
No girls played football. No, that wasn't allowed. Only boys. Yeah, girls weren't allowed to play football.
How many people were on the football team?
How many people were on the football team? I mean, I don't know.
Was it a lot or small?
It was medium. Not big like they are now, but medium size.
Were you or any of your friends cheerleaders?
Yes, the girl, the one who went across the stage in the wheelchair, she was a cheerleader. Yes.
What did you do as a sport or something like that?
As a sport, I didn't do any sports. I was in a lot of clubs. I did business. I know you don't know what shorthand is, but I did typing, shorthand, and business math and all of that stuff. And I was in those clubs, but
Were you in any book clubs?
yes.
Like, what did the girls have to do? Like,
What did they have to do?
yeah.
I played with my friends. I played sports at home. We went outside and played ball every night, but I just didn't play it in school as an organized sport.
Were girls allowed to play sports?
Girls were not allowed to go out for the sports teams that the boys, no. You couldn't do that. You would have created such a furor. It would have been, no, wasn't allowed.
Why were girls allowed to play sports?
I don't know why. Because they didn't want them to, I guess. They thought they were too rough, whatever. I don't know. And nobody ever tested the system. Nobody ever tried to do it when they were told that they couldn't. I had girls that were friends of mine that were very athletic, and they could have, but they didn't because you knew there was no use.
Were girls allowed to play soccer?
No. They're dwelling on this girl-boy thing. That's an interesting thing because that's a discrimination too. Yes.
Do boys have better locker rooms than girls?
There were no locker rooms.
There were no girls' locker rooms because all you had was you had to wear that gym suit, and there were no locker rooms.
Were you allowed to play like sports at home, football and stuff at home?
Oh yeah. I played football, baseball, got my nose broken playing baseball because I was a catcher and the guy slung the bat, hit me in the nose, and broke my nose.
Oh.
But yeah, you played at home. You just weren't allowed to play organized sports at school. Okay, one more question then.
What they do for a broken nose back then?
What did they do?
Yeah, they just.
They did like that. And now I have what they call a deviated septum because of that. So
Wait, what did the boys have to do if they got a
same thing. They would push it back in place and
Oh my gosh.
All right, let's give Mrs. Courtney a great big round of applause.
study hard and work hard and learn everything you can because Mr. Brickler is a good teacher and he'll teach you a lot. And learn everything you can because life is all about what you know. See, if I had known, if people had known back then, there wouldn't have been discrimination like that. So learn everything you can.